and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you 4 vegan slow cooker recipes. One's a curry, well kind of, I'll tell you more about that in a minute. One's a soup, one's a cake, and one is a pasta sauce recipe. So yeah, I'm going to share those with you now. If you haven't got a slow cooker, I highly recommend it. As a vegan, I was never sure if it'd be worth getting a slow cooker because all the recipes I see online always are like meat-based, and I'm never sure if like a vegan meat alternative will go well in a slow cooker. So far, I've never had any luck with it really because I feel like the meat substitutes are not designed to be cooked for a long period of time. I have made another slow cooker video in the past, which I'll link below, which I think I did sausages in it and it was a bit weird. So I don't recommend putting fake meat in a slow cooker, but that doesn't mean you can't use it for a whole plethora of other things. The 4 recipes I made in this video, I've never done before, so you're seeing me try them for the first time, which is why there are some hiccups in it. So yes, without further ado, let's get into the first recipe. So the first recipe was supposed to be a curry. It is a vegetable aubergine curry. I put too much water in it, so it became more of a soup. It was still delicious, but yes, I don't recommend adding as much water as I did. So you're going to start off with cutting up 1 bell pepper. I saw a new fancy way of doing this online, which was just breaking it up with your hand. As you can see, it doesn't work as well as I'd hoped. You just want to roughly chop up the pepper. There's no rhyme or reason to it, and just shove it straight into your slow cooker. And then you're going to just need 1 aubergine. Don't forget to remove the sticker because you don't want to eat that. And again, roughly chop it and then throw it straight into the slow cooker. And then throw in some minced garlic. I'm using 3 cloves and a very, very small one, so I don't think that counts as a clove. So I'm going to say 3 and a little bit. Just mince it up and shove it straight in the slow cooker. And then the recipe says you need 1 tablespoon of ginger, but I don't know what that means. So I've just used a thumb of fresh ginger, cut it up really small and just hurled that straight in. And I hoped for the best, and it did work out okay. It did sort of reduce into nothing and wasn't too stringy in the curry, which was good because there's nothing worse than having a huge piece of ginger in your food. And then completely optional, you can add in a chilli or more if you like that. I naively thought that this 1 single chilli wouldn't add that much spice to this recipe and that Ellis, my 2-year-old, would be able to eat it. I was wrong. This chilli packed a punch, and oh my god, this dish was spicy. It was fine for me and Sean, but no way Ellis could eat it. It was far too hot for him. So if you want to make this for kids, maybe save the chilli until after you've dished up, because I made the mistake. Another mistake I used was using pre-cut butternut squash. I was being lazy, but the issue with using pre-cut frozen butternut squash is that I think it's already cooked a little bit. So in a slow cooker it did turn to mush, which obviously is not ideal in the slightest. So I would recommend using a fresh butternut squash so then it cooks better. You do add frozen peas to this dish, but you add it at the end of the recipe once the food has been cooking for a good amount of time. And then spices wise, you're going to add in 1 OXO cube, just hurl it straight in there, 1 tin of coconut milk, and 3 tablespoons of curry powder and a little bit of water. I added far too much water to this recipe, which made it into a soup. The soup was very tasty, but it was not a curry, so don't add as much water as me. Once everything is in your slow cooker, you're just going to give it 1 big stir around. Obviously, you can see I had an issue here with using the frozen butternut squash. It all stuck together, but just give it a big stir so all the liquid and spices are all evenly dispersed. And you're going to put the slow cooker on low for 6 hours. Once your curry or soup has been cooking and has finished cooking, you just need to add in some frozen peas. It can be as many or as little as you want. Chuck them in and give it a stir around, and maybe leave them in there for maybe like up to 10 to 15 minutes just to warm up and defrost, and then you are good to go. This was a very tasty dish. Obviously it's meant to be a curry. That's my mistake for using frozen butternut squash and too much water, but as a soup it was lovely. I think I will definitely make it again, but I will follow the recipe properly next time. Recipe number 2 is a cake. Who would have thought you can make a cake in a slow cooker? You can. There are so many recipes out there. Do Google it because there are loads out there if you want to try it. One thing I realised about this recipe is that it takes 2 hours in the slow cooker. So you can pretty much get home from work, bung everything in the slow cooker, have dinner, what have you, eat dinner, and then dessert is done if you fancy having dessert that day. One thing with the recipe I did use though is that there's no sugar in the actual batter. The sugar was like in the saucy mix thing that you put on afterwards. And yeah, it did taste a little bit weird if you didn't get any of the sauce in your mouth. It was a bit sort of like bitter and not the nicest. Ellis wasn't a fan, and he is a big fan of chocolate. So when I make this recipe again, which I will be doing, I will be making sure to add sugar to the actual batter because it's not so nice without. The first thing you need to do before you make any vegan cake is make your vegan egg, which is 1 tablespoon of chia seeds and then 3 tablespoons of water. As I'm having 2 eggs in this, I will be using 2 tablespoons of chia seeds and 6 tablespoons of water. You're going to put it all together, give it a mix, and then leave it to sit for about 10 minutes. So the first thing you're going to do is add in all your dry ingredients to a bowl. That is 1 1/4 cup of plain flour. I use self-raising, which I shouldn't have done. 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. You just give that a stir and put it aside. And then into another bowl, you're going to add in your liquid ingredients, which are 3/4 cup of plant milk. I'm using oat milk, and also 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And then you'll also add in your egg mixture here too. My chia seeds weren't quite ready yet, so I just put them aside for a minute whilst they carried on getting goopy. This is about 5 minutes later. I've come back and my egg mixture is a little bit more solidified and not as goopy as it was before, which is what I'm looking for. So I added that in to my liquid mixture, gave it all a stir together, and then added it to my dry ingredients. Now I should have mixed this together with a spatula and not with my hand whisk, because as you will see, everything just turned into one huge lump, which is not what we wanted. I think I also would recommend adding some sort of sugar into the liquid mixture as well. Like I said, without sugar in the batter, it was quite bitter. I did try some because I forgot there was no sugar in it, and it wasn't so nice. Once the cake was mixed and it had a sauce on top, it wasn't too bad, but a cake by itself was not very nice. So yeah, I would probably add sugar into it next time. Look at that disaster. Oh no. This took forever to undo, and I was very annoyed with myself for letting me get this far with it. So yeah, don't use a hand whisk. Use a regular spatula and just mix it together lightly, because this was not good. After what felt like an eternity, I sprayed my slow cooker down with some spray oil and just plopped the whole thing into the slow cooker. And then into a separate bowl, you're going to add in 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, 3/4 cup of sugar. I'm using coconut sugar. You probably should use caster sugar if you wanted to taste a bit sweeter. And then 1 cup of hot water, because you need to make sure that everything dissolves and mixes together. It will seem very runny, but don't worry about it. It does work out fine. Plop that in the slow cooker. It looks horrible, as you can see. Your imagination can take you where you want it to. Yes, it does look disgusting. So you want to put it in the slow cooker for 2 hours on a low heat, and then you will have a delicious cake. The next recipe is a pasta sauce. I had never thought about making a pasta sauce in the slow cooker. It's something that is ingenious, and I'll be looking more into this. So yes, a pasta sauce, easy one, tomato based. I've made them before in a saucepan, and they always taste really weird. So I was really impressed with this recipe. It was a little bit sour. I think it's because I use tomato puree from concentrate. So I think it was a little bit too much tomato. And yeah, something just needed to knock off a bit of the sourness. I googled it and apparently baking powder works. So I have sprinkled a bit on there, but I'm a little bit dubious about doing that because you never know if it's going to make it too fizzy. So yes, that was my one downfall, was the sourness, but it still worked out well. When you mix it with pasta, you can't really tell. Put a heap load of cheese on there. You can always mix cream cheese into it as well. Bob's your uncle. Pasta sauce is a great thing to make in a slow cooker. So for this super easy tomato pasta sauce, you will need 2 tins of chopped tomatoes. It says 1 can of tomato paste. I don't know what that means, so I just use about 100 grams of tomato puree. 1 onion, I'd use a small onion. It does say shallot, but I don't have one of those. 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. I think I use about 4 garlic cloves. I do like my garlic. 2 bay leaves, half a tablespoon of basil, half a tablespoon of oregano, 1 tablespoon of sugar, very, very, very important, and 1 tablespoon of balsamic vinegar. You're just going to literally cut everything up and just shove it straight in the slow cooker. It's so easy to make. It was nice, and I highly recommend making a pasta sauce in your slow cooker because it's just so easy. And you're going to put that on 4 hours on high or 8 hours on low. Then all you need to do is just cook up some of your favourite pasta and then mix it in. Obviously you could always blend the pasta sauce if you would like a smoother consistency, but I didn't bother doing that because I don't mind the chunks. Once all mixed in, sprinkle on some of your favourite cheese. This is the Violife cheese, I believe, that I've pre-grated. Some pepper on top and you're good to go. The final recipe is a bean soup, something that's a bit more like a casserole, a bit more your norm when you make a slow cooker meal. Very easy to do. I love the recipes where you literally just get everything together and just hurl them in the pan. No preparation needed apart from cutting. That is my favourite type of slow cooker meal. It's a soup, have it with a big, nice, chunky bread. Delicious. And for this bean soup recipe, you will need 2 tins or cartons of cannellini beans, but I'm sure you could use any sort of white bean, butter bean, or I don't know, any other white bean. 4 cloves of garlic, 1 onion, 4 carrots, 4 celery sticks, 1 bay leaf, 1 teaspoon of rosemary, but you may want to reduce that a little bit if you're not the biggest fan of rosemary, as I discovered unfortunately when I finished making this recipe. I should have done less rosemary. Half a teaspoon of thyme, half a teaspoon of paprika, 6 cups of water, 1 OXO cube, and then you may need to have some more salt to add on afterwards, just in case the taste isn't quite to your liking. One thing I have learned from doing this slow cooker video is that I need a new garlic press because the mincer thing I have at the minute is so irritating. It's really hard to use, impossible to clean, and quite frankly I've had enough. So I need recommendations for a good garlic mincer or cutter or whatever they're called. So if you have any recommendations, please leave it in the comment below. How adult am I? And a top tip, whenever you're using tinned beans, make sure you always sieve them first and give them a good rinse to get any of the gases off them. Apparently this is a good way to help you stop getting gassy and farty, as some people do when they eat beans. So yeah, make sure you always rinse them off and that will help. And then you are going to put everything in the slow cooker and do 4 hours on high or 8 hours on slow. So that is the end of the video. They are my 4 slow cooker vegan recipes. Please let me know if you will give any of these a go. I will link everything below in the description box if you wanted to try them out. Some of the recipes I would recommend modifying a little bit, like I mentioned already. Apart from that, I'm giving the meals a, I'd say an 8 out of 10 for all of them in total. You know, if you have enjoyed the video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!